So we're back to reassembling this 2010 Audi Q5. I've got the injector retainers. In case you're interested, there's the part number for the injector retainer. That includes this little steel retainer and this little gasket that goes at the base of the injector. They don't come with the injectors, yet they get destroyed, as you can see when you take out the injectors. The kit also comes with the O-ring seals that are already installed on the injector. I asked the parts guys if you could just buy these two pieces separately, and you cannot. They come in this kit. Here's the kit here. And you need one kit for each injector. So we're going to reassemble these things and take a couple little clips along the way as we go to putting it back together. That's the part number for the injector if you're interested. These are Hitachi injectors. New ones, not reman. No core on them, thank goodness, because I destroyed the old ones getting them out. So the service literature here suggests that Teflon seal, item number 2 in the diagram, which is pre-installed on the injector, must not be greased or handled with any other lubricant during installation. So put it in dry. I guess the upper O-ring seal could have light engine oil or silicone grease on it. We'll see if there's any other tricks to installing these. Thank goodness the Teflon seals are pre-installed on the replacement injectors, because it requires this special sleeve, which is a tapered cone, to spread that seal and slide it on, and then a resizing tool to resize the sleeve so that it'll slide into the cylinder head again. There's a resizing tool. Turning it now so you can press, sizing the sleeve in this tight twisting motion until the fuel injector. Coat the new O-ring with clean engine oil before installing, it says. Yet on the other screen it says not to use any lubricant on it. I don't know if they're talking about that one or the top O-ring. The new O-ring. Well, that's not an O-ring, that's a sleeve. Okay, we'll continue to put this together. So the bore that the injector sits in is quite oxidized, corroded, so it needs to be scraped out. I put a small plastic hydraulic cap in the hole in the bottom to prevent anything from falling directly into the cylinder. So there's all 6 fuel injectors reinstalled. This last one on this side is a bit of a pain because there's not enough room to get the harness on. So if you kind of half-ass install it, push it down about halfway, you can get the connector on and then rotate it back to where it's supposed to be and press it in all the way. I capped each one as I did it to ensure that I wouldn't get no dirt in them. I'm going to leave the caps on there until the upper or the lower intake is ready to go, or the fuel rail is ready to go on. Okay, so we got all the injectors in, fuel rails in, lower intakes in, fuel lines connected, cycled the ignition to pressurize the fuel rail to check for leaks at these fittings. The torque on those fittings is supposed to be 27 foot-pounds. They are brass, steel and brass fitting, so need a special crow foot for your torque wrench to do that, though. I believe the torque on these was 80 inch-pounds, but double check, look it up yourself. Don't trust my verbal statement. We're ready to put the upper intake on now. So it's back together. We're ready to fire it up in a second. Check fuel trims and reset fuel trims here. I'm still waiting for the air pump for the air injection system, but I'm gonna leave the air box off, and the headlight is another issue. I'm waiting for that as well. The bolts that hold the intake manifold down are 8 Newton meters, which works out to, I believe, 70 inch-pounds. And the rest is just little reconnect hoses and connectors and clips, and don't forget the intake manifold runner control hose and clip. And we're going to hook up the scanner and fire this thing up. Well, it's been running for about 5 minutes now. Started up just fine, seems to be running on all 6 cylinders. Let's have a look at the fuel trims now. So I did clear the codes, but I'm not sure that reset the fuel trims. I see bank 1 is at roughly 0. And bank 2 is -14, -15. Why is it going negative now? So I just ran it for a few minutes and shut it off, and now you can see the fuel rail pressure is actually climbing because the fuel rail is going through a hot soak condition. Before, it would actually drop off within a couple of minutes from 500 psi down to roughly 75, 80 psi. So the fuel injectors were leaking. I don't know why that fuel trim on bank 2 has gone negative again, but we're going to take this thing for a road test and see how it performs. It's definitely holding fuel pressure the way it's supposed to now. Let's start it up again with the recording running. It's an open loop. When you start it up, it'll be an open loop for a few seconds and then it'll switch to closed loop. It runs around 560 psi at an idle fuel rail pressure. I'm going to do a fuel trim reset. It may not have reset from the previous, just simply clearing the codes. We'll try that. Well, that's much better. It's running about -1 on both banks for fuel trim. So we're going to take this for a road test, but I'm sure it's okay now. So for just curiosity's sake, I'm going to see how long this thing will hold fuel pressure. It's, let's see, what time is it? 2:04 p.m. So I'm going to turn this off and turn the key back on and see how long it holds pressure. So you can see now when you shut it off, it actually goes through a hot soak and the fuel rail pressure will rise due to the heat in the fuel rail, heating the fuel up and then expanding. So again, it's 2:05 p.m. So we're going to pause this recording and come back in a few minutes and see how long it holds fuel rail pressure. Very interesting. After 10 minutes, it's 2:14 now. Shut it off at 2:04, 2:05. The fuel rail pressure has actually climbed to 1480 psi, and you notice it keeps dropping off. I think there's a pressure relief at 1500 psi, and you can hear a little squeak from the pressure relief releasing, and that's just because it's going through a hot soak condition. It's going to happen again. You can see every time it did it. But it's definitely holding fuel pressure now. Before it didn't do that at all. It would drop off between 500, there it goes again, immediately. So the fuel leaks are fixed. That's hopefully the air injection pump fixes the fault code for the air injection system. And no more surprises after this. We go on a couple road tests.